Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. With host and founder, Richard Case, and co-host and retreat leader, Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
How are you this morning? And this will be airing toward the end of August, and we're working in. We're not too far from finishing our series now on loving God with our heart, mind, and soul, which will be fun.
It's been a great series, right?
It really has, yeah, and it's lots of great feedback. And you and I, it's always fun to let God show us. Okay, here's what I'd like you to deal with next. So that'll be fun to find out and process. And how is your summer going with the baby and everything else?
Everything is going great. I will say our schedules and their schedules haven't synced for like a whole week. So I am going through holding a baby withdrawal right now, but he is doing great, growing well. And Emily and Josh are just thoroughly enjoying being parents, and he's really thriving. And so are they. They're working together really well as a team. But then on my front, summer's been fantastic. We actually just had, Tawanda Matei. We've had her on the podcast. She and a couple of good friends of hers that are now good friends of mine were just out for a long weekend. There's been a lot of fun things going on this summer for sure. So That was a joy. It's always a joy to get together with other people who just walk with God all the time. So, I mean, our conversations all day long were just full and refreshing and lots of laughter,
Yep. We're having a great time too. We have our two grandsons, Joshua and Aiden, are actually here the summer with us and with their parents. And we're taping this, now in the first part of August. So we're only got a couple more weeks
before they go back to college.
Yeah, back to college. Joshua's to Baylor and Aiden, Wisconsin. We're going to tape him, today actually for a guest spot of sharing with us what that looks like. And
right, and that'll air in the middle of September. So
yeah, and it's kind of similar. It's not the same with as God spoke to you to, do something different this summer, and you're gonna have a baby, and don't travel, and those kind of things. Well, for us, Joshua being a senior, he is going to be working next year. Peter and Shara are moving to Texas. They're building a house down there because of his job with Lockheed. And Aiden, will be different places, probably doing an internship next summer. So God did tell us ahead of time. He said, this is literally your last physical time where you will be together in the same place all summer.
Right.
He
and
said
that's not going to happen to you guys.
That's not going to happen again. And so I want you, Linda and I, you to stay and enjoy them and do special things together. And, Aiden bought tickets and took me to the Rockies game last week.
Oh, fun. Are they good this year?
No, they're awful.
But you still had fun.
They are potentially going to be known as literally having the worst season in the history from the 1800s of baseball relative to wins and losses,
But hey, you're getting to view history.
Oh, we are, yeah, and we went and they lost, but we got to see, and he got tickets right by first base, so we got to see 6 home runs.
Oh, nice, from the other team, right?
Yeah, 3 from the other team, 3 from our team, but they beat us, so it was fun. But it was fun. It was fun to see us.
That's
so we had
super
a good time.
Fun.
We're playing a lot of golf and enjoying that, and got Joshua lessons, and he's really starting to be pretty good. And
that's fantastic.
He said, I really want to get ready to learn to play golf as I go into a career. So he will, and then he'll teach. And they're both dating, really seriously, and so it's going to be funny to see how that is. As you've experienced,
yes,
you get to go through that phase of dating and seriousness and engagement, and then marriage, and
it is a joy, right? And then you get to Anna and Ryan, by the way, just signed a new lease on an apartment. So
Oh, they did.
this was a fun God story. Do you mind? I'll just share it real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, please.
But their lease, those, I don't know how many people remember from previous, but the apartment that they've been in for the last year, absolutely, God anointed that search, provided them a place that fit their budget in Boston for a ridiculously low price. That it was comical. The realtor was even like, I've never seen this before. It was absolutely God's favor. And it was so fun to watch him go ahead of that. And now as this lease is coming up, at the landlord, I think, had bought the place and recognized, well, that is really renting for easily $1,000 under market price, if not more.
Whoa. That's
so
a big
he was
deal.
raising, yes. So he was going to raise the rent. And they, Ryan's finishing up his master's next week, actually. And so he's going to be moving on to his job. Anna's moving into her student teaching. So it was time for them to go ahead and move out of the city now anyway. And so as their lease comes up, they've been praying about it. And Ryan's been diligently looking and watching, and they had made a list of what they knew they needed and all of that. And long story short, if I can even ever do that, but long story short, God
Linda
led them.
and Kathy are very similar, of the same cloth.
Because I tell you what, though, God's in the details. So
That's
sometimes if you cut it too short, you miss some of the best God details. But I am going to try to keep it briefer. But anyway, he led them to this particular apartment that is ideal. It's right on the commuter rail into Boston for Anna to wrap up some of the last things that she has. And it also is only 10 minutes from Newburyport, where Ryan will be working, and from where Anna will be doing her student teaching. And they showed up. They were to meet the realtor this last weekend at a certain time to see the apartment. And because it was very reasonably priced for the area, and it was newly renovated, so it looks fantastic inside, checked all their boxes. But because it was that, when they showed up, there were 20 other people there signing in to look at it at the same time and putting in applications. And talk about God's favor. The realtor, they were, as everybody left, Ryan and Anna stayed behind to talk to the realtor more, and he had been diligent enough to call and make his name known before he got there, not just emailing about the showing and all of that. And Dan and I drove past, and we were praying. We drove on the way home from church and prayed over the property and just, if this is it, God, open the doors and whatever. And when out of 20 applicants, these two young kids just coming out of college got the apartment.
Oh, man.
I mean, that is just God's favor. That is nothing other than God's favor.
No, pure gift and the work of God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's a praise. That's a rejoicing.
So huge praise, and just fun to watch. It was fun to watch them. I told Anna, I was talking to Anna about it yesterday. We went out to dinner, and she was saying, it was so cool because Ryan and I were sitting having our time with Jesus in the morning, and we were talking about it, and felt like we really had both just really gotten to the place of peace that if this is God's will, we'll get the apartment. If it's not, we won't. And as soon as we both had shared that with each other, we get a call from the realtor saying, guess what? He chose you,
That's fantastic. That's part of, as we help people understand that that's part of the grand life, because we tend to think, grand is just money, and it's not, it's just God at work, giving favor to life.
Yes.
So that's a beautiful thing. And, maybe we should go through that series and talk about the grand life, because that's a great example of it,
Yes, absolutely.
And then as a document that, by the way, it's important to record it. That's why in the Old Testament, particularly, they went through altars and memorializing things and remembering God did.
Right.
And as they go back and look at life, is, hey, look, I remember what God did here and what he's doing now, and he can do it again.
Right.
And it's
in fact, they had stakes in the ground. I mean, they had holidays, I call them holidays, but they had feasts, set up around remembrance.
Yes.
Like it was in a rhythm of their life to remember the goodness of God. And even the different things that they, that they would do on Sabbath and stuff were set up to remember God's faithfulness.
That's
and
right.
that coming back and frequenting, because those are the things also you hold on to when you're sitting in the middle of a waiting period, right? When you're in that liminal space, looking and seeing, okay, this reminds me that God is faithful. That's what carries you through to the next a lot of times.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're in our series of Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and we're in the section where we're talking about opposition, conflict, people hurting you, you're upset, you wish it were different, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about the essence of, that I have to live in forgiveness toward them because Christ has already forgiven them. But we have to understand, how do we get through to resolution, which may be reconciliation. Reconciliation is, hey, we come back to that beautiful place of everybody's on the same page. And if somebody's hurt you, they've admitted it, they're sorry, and let's get it. What can I do to make it right?
But that doesn't always happen, right?
No. By the way, he said if it's on you and you've offended somebody, you're always to stop and go work it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to do that again. What would be healthy for us going forward? And we talked about it with, particularly with a spouse, is you do things and they're upset about it, and rightfully so. And okay, I'm sorry. I own that. What can I do differently to make sure that you're not offended again, and you work it through, you reconcile. Here we're talking about where the attempt is to reconcile, which is you're an ambassador and you're offering your peace, which means you're in peace. And that means you're in forgiveness. You're walking with God. You're still angry, which is fine. He said, be angry and do not sin. You can be angry and peaceful at the same time. It's kind of funny. Is that if you can really understand that, you can really live life. Life is going to make you angry, and all the stuff that happened, particularly the people around you, that it shocks you that they're treating you this way or they're doing things this way. But he said, then make an attempt. You keep thinking of noble things and keep your focus on God, and don't get drawn into the woe is me and I'm mad and I'm going to get revenge and it bothers me and I've got to fix it. He said, no, get back to being noble things. And he said, as you do that, one of the ways is that you don't take on the burden of this resolution. You stay with it, but don't take on the burden of it. And we'll try to describe what that means. So go to Matthew 11:28-30.
Sure. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Yeah. Okay. So he said you're heavy laden, and when you're in conflict, particularly around people that either have great influence on you, which could be your employer, people at work, managers, family members, church people, friends. It bothers you because particularly that it's not an easy thing to just say, well, I'll just ignore them. Yeah, I forgive them and they're not going to do it, so I'll just let it go, which God says that's good. But a lot of times these people are around you and you can't really just vacate.
Right. And honestly, there's repeat offenders, right?
Yeah,
where it's time and time again, and just in being in their presence, something else is going to be triggered and there's new things to forgive.
Now think about, there's one statement about that, and I'm glad you brought that up, repeat offenders per se. Why would anybody be a repeat offender? What's going on with them that they're a repeat offender?
Well, there's something in their heart that is broken, and that they're just having issues with.
They don't care. They're not sensitive at all as the impact it's having on you. It's that it's so self-centeredness that you're in my way, or you're doing something I don't like, and I'm going to manipulate you to do it. In essence, there's a very strong unhealthiness in me. And I repeat it because people don't even think that, well, I've done this over and over and over again. They don't care. It's like, are you gonna capitulate?
A lack of self-awareness sometimes. Sometimes it's not so intentional. I mean, it's obviously always a sin nature and things that need to be healed, but sometimes it truly is not intentional. It's a lack of self-awareness and comes from their own wounds. Yeah.
So there's in relationships that are not resolved. And what I mean by that is I haven't come to a conclusion yet about this, and particularly those that are around me in my circle. If they're not resolved, it bothers me. So it's a burden. I carry a burden. What am I going to do? What's going to happen? How do I do it? How come God changed them? Which guy says, well, it's free will. It's not going to happen. So let's go through the verbs here in this verse. The first one is he says what? Come to me. He said, I know you're heavy laden. That's okay. He said, now, instead of you staying heavy laden,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring this out and being upset and obsessing about it and always angry about it, come to me
Mm-hmm.
and say, Father Christ, would you resolve this for me?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when you come and you offer it then to me, he says, I give you rest immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this is cool. There's two different words here for rest. Rest is I'm going to release the pressure
Mm-hmm.
because you now recognize I'm going to move toward a resolution. And if you really understood that, because you've come to me,
Right.
and you have to come to me. See, if you stay outside and just say, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to figure this out, figure this out, God, would you fix it? And you're not talking to him, you're not really giving it to him because he's going to resolve it.
Right.
He said, you're going to still be heavy laden.
Right.
He said, why don't you just come to me and talk to me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He says, now, as you come to me, there's one thing I need you now to do, and it's called yoke up with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now there's a picture, and we can probably the best picture most of us can identify with is the Christmas advertisement, actually from Budweiser, which is the Clydesdales
Mm-hmm.
who are prancing, pulling a sleigh
Right.
at Christmas. And those two Clydesdales are yoked together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in perfect step. So when he says, yoke up with me, he said, first of all, get into the yoke
Mm-hmm.
and then learn to get in step with me.
Right.
And by the way, what they do, and this is, I know somebody that works there, is they take a master Clydesdale
Mm-hmm.
who's already learned this. And basically, in the advertisements, they have two master Clydesdales that have learned how to do this. But he said when they train new ones, they put the new one, a rookie, with the master.
Mm-hmm.
And now they yoke them up. But the rookie is always trying to pull away and never is in step. But because they're yoked, he starts to realize, you know what? It's a lot easier if I just get in step.
Mm-hmm.
And they lose their desire to pull away and do their own step. And they recognize that, I'm going to learn how to step with the master who's leading me. And that's what God says is I don't expect you to get in step immediately,
Mm-hmm.
but yoke up.
Right.
And I will guide you to a resolution here. And then it says, if you do, he says, I'll give you rest. And read that again. I'll give you rest for what?
Rest for your soul.
Soul. So he said, if you come to me, I'm going to release the pressure. You're going to recognize it's my burden, not yours. And you'll come to a place of shalom, rest, peace in your inner self. You'll say, it's resolved. I got it resolved. And when it's resolved, you're at that point of complete peace and rest in your inner being because it really happened. Why? Because he did it, say.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, come with me. Let me resolve it. Stay with me until I resolve it. When I do, you'll be in step with me. You'll be at the same place I'm at. And now you're free.
Mm-hmm.
And what? You've gone from being heavy burdened to no burden.
Right.
Now, the only way you can do it is you got to walk with God.
Right. And it really is learning that posture of dependence and that invitation, like you said, just to come, to bring it to him and recognize we can't on our own. We have to be yoked to him. He has to do it. And it's like humility and dependence.
Yeah. And the answer, isn't, because a lot of people say, okay, I'll do that. And I believe I'll just accept what they're doing. And God says, that's not resolution.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no. Do not go there of thinking that you're yoked with me by saying, well, I'll just put up with this.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't say that. I'm going to resolve it for you in a way that is the way that I operate and that you can understand it. And so that you're done with it through the resolution piece of it, which, by the way, may not be, and a lot of times isn't, any kind of reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not reconciled and they're still in your life. How are you going to do that? See, we got to handle that. Okay. And then go to 2 Timothy 1, 5-7.
Sure. 2 Timothy 1, 5-7 says, when I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded is in you also. Therefore, I remind you to stir up the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of hands. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
Yeah. Remember that the burden is because I fear there's consequences to what they're doing. And I'm trying to fix those consequences. And I live in fear. He said, well, I'm not giving you the spirit of fear to be afraid of what they can do or how they can do it or the fact that they are doing it. Rather, I've given you a spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind that knows that I will resolve this, and it'll be through God's supernatural work. Now, it's not, and this is where we have to be careful, is that our desire would be, Father, supernaturally change that person's heart so they do what's right.
Right.
So they admit that they're wrong and that they stop doing what they're doing and that they come to their senses. And I want you to do that. And God says, well, don't define that as my power.
Right.
He said, because I don't force anybody, including you, by the way. So you're heavy laden. I invite you to come and give it to me. Now, you don't have to. If you choose not to, I can't release the burden.
Right.
So the invitation goes all the way back to you. And he says, now that you do, I will supernaturally exercise power on your behalf to put it in situations where you're free of the consequences of what they're doing, because I'll show you what to do with it.
Right. And I even love in that, I'm just going to highlight, because I hear this all the time, and I've experienced this too, but where it says, he's given us a spirit, not a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. That sound mind, I mean, how many times do you talk to people who will share when they really are in a difficult thing, spiraling thoughts?
Yes.
Right? That their thoughts spiral. And if they're by themselves, they start thinking and they start replaying a conversation in their head and replaying how they would respond. And, and it stays anything but a sound mind, right? And they just want their thoughts to quiet.
Right.
And what he promises here is that he gives a sound mind, and it actually translates as safe thinking.
Yep.
And it's disciplined thought patterns that are focused on him and his solutions and where he's walking us and what his truth is, rather than the focus on what the storm is, which really comes back to when you shared in Philippians 4, keeping our minds set on what is true and what is trustworthy and all of the noble and good, all of these things. But that is not just a discipline for us, but is a gift to us, that he has given us the ability to have a sound mind on these when we are yoked to him, right?
Yep. So it's, as we, look at this, is that we have a heart to do this. He said, now you got to really come with me, yoke up, let me guide you to a resolution, recognize that, don't be afraid, but stay with me, because the spirit that I have with you is love, which is following me and understanding what I want to direct you to, power, and this sound mind that it vacates. Your obsession with this vacates, and your upsetness with this vacates, and I'll lead you to the best. So Heavenly Father, thank you for encouraging us to not stand pat of just putting up with something or staying in a place of real turmoil, but rather that we would cast it upon you. We would come to you, we would yoke up, we would learn that you'll resolve this, and you'll resolve it because of the power within us. And so we just pray that we'll learn that, and that we won't be bothered as we learn how to deal with people that are difficult. And we thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Rich, and thank you for joining us, listeners. If you have questions from today's broadcast, send them in to us at questions@abideministries.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.